There are at least 20 different fires burning from southern Oregon all the way to the Wallowa National Forest.
And thousands of firefighters are on the front lines of those fires, making sure that it doesn't get any worse. Joining us live to talk more about Oregon's wildfires is the State Fire Marshal Public Affairs Specialist, John Hendricks. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having us this morning.
Yeah, so tell us right now, what are the biggest fires of concern in Oregon right now?
Well, when you think about it, the biggest concern that we have right now is all of the fires that we have on the landscape currently. That's because it's simply so dry across much of Oregon. These firefighters are putting in a lot of work to keep those fires contained, but that dry conditions that we have are concerning just around all of our fires that we currently have. We're asking people that they really keep those fire prevention tips in mind when they're out and about. Right now, our office has 11 task forces mobilized. 9 of those are from Oregon. 2 of them came from the state of Washington. They're on the Patent Meadow fire that's burning near Lakeview. It's part of the Fox complex down there. They continue to do great work around those homes in that area. So that's one of the fires that we're really keeping an eye on right now.
So we've seen a shift in the weather this week here from some of the really, really hot and dry weather that we've had this summer to something a little bit more seasonal, cloudy, a little bit more moderate. Is that helping in the firefighting effort?
Yeah, this change in weather definitely helps out our firefighters. It's cooler at night and we're getting some higher humidities around some of these fires, and that's allowing those night crews to really get in there to do some critical work and, helping bolster those containment lines. So we're excited to see that this weather forecast has changed. We're also seeing that there's not a lot of lightning in the forecast. So that will really help our crews focus on the fires that are there, and they won't be having to respond for initial attack on any other Mother Nature caused fires, so to speak.
We are approaching Labor Day in a few weeks. It was right after that holiday weekend where we saw those just huge, devastating fires in Oregon that crews spent weeks and months battling. What does the forecast look like for the rest of the fire season? What are you all anticipating?
Well, as it sits right now, we're kind of enjoying that cooler weather and getting ahead of things. It's really tough to predict that far out how the conditions are changed. In 2 weeks, we might get a bunch of rain, which would be really good because that's one thing that all of us are hoping for, is some rain to kind of bring up those moisture levels in some of those fuels. So we're really kind of banking on the forecast staying the where it is so we can make some really good progress on the fires that are currently on the landscape.
John, we've had talk about, these efforts to raise the wage for federal firefighters, these different incentives to bring in firefighters within all different groups, federal, state, local. Is it a question of having enough crews and enough resources to be fighting these fires as we continue to see these seasons getting worse? Or is it a question of needing different management and a different way of approaching this year round?
So our office has kind of taken a holistic approach to fighting wildfires and being there to protect our fellow Oregonians. We've made some different changes thanks to the state legislature. You guys have reported on in the past that we are pre-positioning resources. If we get some lightning coming up from the south, we want to have crews ready to respond. That's one change that we've made. We're also able to mobilize firefighters for immediate response to help kind of bolster that mutual aid system that we have in place. Resources across the West right now are pretty stretched thin. The Northwest, Washington and Oregon are that #1 priority nationally for resources. So that's kind of allowed some of the other agencies to be able to bring in some additional resources in getting some of these large fires under control.
All right. Well, fingers crossed we can get these wildfires currently under control and that we don't see a September like we saw last year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, John Hendricks from the Oregon Fire Marshal's office, for joining us this morning.